Well, the fact of the matter is, I've fallen out of the habit of running in and throwing on one of my nice button-up shirts that I usually wear in the morning. Good morning, everybody. I've got Mario here with us this morning, and we're going to be talking about public schools, the education system, Chinese spies, hostile foreign invaders, ICE walkouts, and the whole in about 29 minutes because I have to drive to Savannah this morning. Actually, I don't have to be there until noon, so if we push over a little past the hour, that's okay. But holy God, I have to go to Savannah today and do work.
Telling you, man, you keep playing with the numbers, you keep playing with the stream times. Okay, February is a short month. You got 2 days left. You're gonna precipitate a situation where Rumble comes to our doors demanding their hours, and we ain't got it. Okay.
In fairness, I played Diablo. Night before last and throughout the day yesterday, and I did a couple of extra live streams. So we've hit all our numbers now, except for we need about 0.6 hours. We'll get that this morning.
Don't show them the treasure chest, okay? People don't show them the obscene earnings of this program.
Yeah,
they might stop donating.
the $200 we're going to make this month off the show. We're getting there, though. We're getting there. So, we're going to start with this one. I saw this come across the feed, and well, let me play the clip real quick, and I'll kind of tell you about my thoughts.
Superintendent Alberto Carvalho, the FBI confirming that it executed search warrants, but withholding any further detail. The superintendent has recently made headlines for fighting with federal officials over immigration enforcement efforts in his district. Sandra?
Okay, John, thank you.
That's right. They arrested so the FBI has gone to arrest this LA superintendent. I'm a little unclear on some details here because it appears to say that he was formerly an illegal alien. Right, what to know about the LA superintendent whose home was searched by the FBI? This story is from yesterday out of the AP. But Los Angeles School Superintendent Alberto Carvalho, who has developed a reputation for improving academics and graduation rates while leading 2 major U.S. districts, had his home searched Wednesday by the FBI as part of a federal investigation. Agents served search warrants at the home. I love that it's got who has a reputation for improving academic and graduation rates. I'm sure he does. Agents served search warrants at the home as well as the headquarters of the Los Angeles Unified School District and a location near Miami, where Carvalho was superintendent previously. Have not given details on what they're investigating, but there's a challenging start in the country. Carvalho has described his background in numerous news conferences and interviews over the years. He was born in Portugal and spent his childhood living in poverty, came to the U.S. more than 4 decades ago at age 17, and did not have legal status for a time. Okay. I don't care what else is true.
I was about to say, Carvalho's, that's Portuguese for caballo. All right, I'm like, where the fuck is this guy from? Illegals from Brazil? Okay, Portugal. Got it.
Portuguese.
Okay.
So, this guy, he came here illegally, right? That's clever language. He came here more than 4 decades ago at age 17 and did not have legal status for a time. He then acquired legal status.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have some questions.
So he wasn't a legal adult, which means that did he have a passport? Like, did he overstay a tourist visa? Did he get a 90-day stamp and never go home? Like Portugal is that's a EU member, so they would have had, it would be pretty much a free visa back and forth, right? But that's mysterious. But he was a minor at the time too. So did his parents come with him? Like what was the story here? Okay. Did he get trafficked? Was his boy Poochie getting fucking slung on the streets there in Miami? Like what was going on? And what's up with that blue and white striped sports coat he's wearing in that in that FBI in that photo. Okay, at the beginning, that's the real question. Looks like a thrift. That's like some thrift shop special. Okay, I'm concerned.
So he has also been hypercritical of Trump's border enforcement, the immigration policy.
Like many Californians, Trump is not his president. Okay, you just got to understand.
Right,
It's a way of life. Okay, it's a different way of viewing the world. When Trump
Sergeant Major points out maybe he overstayed a visa. Aaron Olson asks college immigrant, and it doesn't say. All we get is that he came here somehow, was illegal for a time, and then and we're being told that he is a former illegal. And I have concerns here because this is somebody who entered our country without respecting the law, even if he's a visa overstay, right? You know, we've talked about this several times. You'll hear Democrats say, well, being illegal in the United States isn't even a crime. It's a civil infraction. That is incorrect. That is false. There is an illegal presence status that is a mere civil infraction, and that is the overstay of a visa, in which case they are in civil violation. They are not in criminal violation. However, when we're talking about illegal immigrants, while the category of visa overstays is one that does bear scrutiny and does need some enforcement action put on it, when we're talking about Trump's border policy, we're explicitly talking about illegal border crossers, and that is in fact a criminal offense. It's an important criminal offense.
Yep. And
it infuriates me that we don't treat it like the war crime that it is.
So that's the difference. If you come here on a visa and you overstay it, right? Don't go home when you're supposed to, or get it renewed. That would be a civil infraction. But actually invading the country by breaching its borders, that is a criminal.
Correct.
That is criminal. Okay,
that's correct.
Okay. All right.
And the legal corrective action for both is expulsion, is deportation.
Correct.
Now in the event of a visa overstay, you got to ask the question too. Okay, are we talking about somebody who is here and his visa expired last week and he just wasn't paying attention to the calendar? Or, as there are many cases, are we talking about somebody who came here on a visa legally and it expired 20 years ago? Like, listen, son, I get sometimes you forget to renew your driver's license because it's every 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, oh, shit, that's right. I just had another birthday. I need to go handle that, right? And guess what? Often, if you find yourself in that situation where you're driving on an expired driver's license because you had a birthday a month ago and you forgot that, oh, this was the big one where I had to renew my license, and you get pulled over and the cop says, hey, you know your license expired. You say, no, it's not. What? Oh, you know what? You're going to pay a fine. You're going to renew your license. And okay, cool, good stuff. If you get pulled over driving on a license that expired 20 years ago, it will not be treated with that kind of lenience in the court. It won't be, hey, we get it. We understand. People make mistakes.
At that point, you're better off just not having the driver's license.
Right.
I love how license and registration is done on your birthday, right? It's like the state makes you pay for your birthday presents. I love it.
Yeah. Hey, congratulations. You survived another. Give me money. I need to put one of the airsoft pistols on the desk right here so that every time we talk about taxes, I can just pick it up.
Brandishing at the camera.
Yes.
That'll get you demonetized.
You know what? I think they changed that policy. I tested it the other day. I picked up one of the rifles while we were live on YouTube, and we didn't immediately get axed. So, excuse me.
Maybe we should do like a test episode, okay? Where you on your half of the screen do increasingly more and more flagrant things with firearms. And I'll be on the other half of the screen, and now just keep upping the ante with even more severe racial slurs. Okay, in the hierarchy. Okay, well, the audience can start timing it. Okay, we can take side bets on what will be the trigger words they get to shut down. It's a good time, you know.
You get to the N bomb, and I've just got a stack of Claymore mines on the desk.
Yep. Good times. You know, someone's got to be the canary in that coal mine. You know what I mean? It's a public service.
Yeah.
All right.
So I bring this story up. You know, it could be the case that this guy was a visa overstay that dicked around a little longer than is probably tolerable, and then he did everything right. That could be the case.
Well, he became
I strongly doubt,
a Democrat, so I don't. That's already
right. I strongly
incorrect.
doubt that's the case for three glaring reasons in this story. You know, one, it's kind of like the black criminal, right? If this guy were completely defensible, it would be the headline, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know, Coulter's law. If the race is not mentioned in the headline, then the offender was black,
or at least
not white.
Yeah,
right. If the race is mentioned in the headline, it will be the case that the offender is white, and that's a near 100% occurrence now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the fact that there's not an immediate clarifying, definitive distinction in the headline tells us, because this is out of the AP, so the AP is absolutely beholden to Coulter's rule. So the fact that there's not a perfect exculpatory claim in the headline tells me that there's something else going on here, and that remains true through the rest of the story. There's no more information about his legal status, how he switched from illegal to legal. Right.
Regardless of his immigration status, okay. What is this man doing in a position of authority, compelling minors to engage in political speech, like at his behest? Okay. What?
I'm glad you brought that up, Mario, because the other thing that I want to talk about in this context is the alarming number, of anti-ICE protests, the ICE out protests, student protests. I was looking for videos on it, but it just gave me.
There was a major one recently in Virginia. Like, I believe 122 students were suspended. Or what was that, Virginia, or was it somewhere else? Regardless, recently 122 students were suspended, all right, for engaging in classroom walkouts and anti-ICE protests, right? So, but
yeah, so you know, these children are leaving the schools, and we covered a few of the headlines, a few of the videos where parents have learned, wait, my kid is out in the streets protesting with these anti-ICE radicals, and they're going to the school and pulling their kids out of the school. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you mentioned there was one superhero frickin' principal just recently, who went out to the group and told them, "Hey, no, here's your one opportunity. You can go back inside and go back to class right now, and if you don't, then we're writing down your names and you're going to be suspended." What should have happened is they should have been expelled. Sorry guys, I'm still dealing with some crud. Got a lot of kids in the house. One of them gets sick and everybody gets sick. Just awesome.
Yeah, it was Virginia. There's 300 school students who ditched class for anti-ICE protest have been suspended. So I'm guessing Northern Virginia, almost certainly. I'm guessing probably Loudoun County.
Loudoun County area.
Loudoun County. Yeah, the site of the home of the bathroom tranny molestation, right? Yes. Home of bathroom tranny sodomy, Loudoun County. Home of arresting the father of a student who was raped in a bathroom in public school for protesting at a school board meeting. That's Loudoun County. Loudoun County, whose representative is in fact a communist Indian, right? What was her last name? Barrage or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, Loudoun County's, dude. Virginia's done. Virginia's been Democrat for a while, but it hasn't been strong Democrat. But with all right, I guess
Did
we're
you
not
see
going to
this?
get into the Republicans' gubernatorial candidate failures, okay? But Virginia is in a terrible situation. I mean, because every
Yeah.
time a Democrat gets elected, okay, particularly in an area where there's a divide. There's a divide relatively within the 40 percentile margin between Democrat and Republican. Anytime a Democrat gets elected, they're going to move forward full steam ahead to essentially crush the electoral means by which they might lose power. And that's what's happened in Virginia. And now they're coming down hard on gun control measures there as well. What is it, Stenbrenner, whatever the governor is?
Spanberger?
Yep, getting
No.
getting 90% of the black vote. A white liberal Jewish woman. You know, good job,
Yep.
Republicans.
Former CIA agent, and
Keep
then
running.
she moved in, and within the first month of her being in office, they add a whole bunch of new taxes. They raise existing taxes. She pushes to criminalize the hand counting of ballots in elections.
What are we doing?
And now pushing for an assault weapons ban.
Yep.
That defines assault weapons as any weapon. Basically, it's all semi-automatic weapons.
Right. And
it's everything except for bolt action rifles and maybe revolvers.
Right. And she's not an outlier amongst Democrat politicians. She was the one who gave the response to President Trump's State of the Union. Okay. So she is in fact the standard bearer for the Democrat Party. So yep.
Yeah. We kind of walked off of the original thrust of what I wanted to talk about,
right.
And I'm a little.
So talking about public school system, right? Putting your children in public school is the equivalent of child abuse. All right, honestly, if you think about it. Okay, first of all, the public school system is an entrenched federal institution. Okay, that will work tirelessly to basically maintain its numbers, maintain its funding. Okay, through the Department of Education. Usually every election cycle, you get some Republicans trying to throw red meat to the base. We'll talk about how we're gonna discontinue the Department of Education. We're going to abolish it. Okay, but it never happens because the teachers union is one of the most powerful unions in the country when it comes to political patronage with the Democrat Party, probably second only to the Trial Lawyers Association, right? So it is an entrenched federal institution, all right, and you can assume that the 90+% of the public school teachers who are members of this union are going to be on the political left. Okay, and this starts back in getting their bachelor degrees, right? Back in college where the left-wing radicalism begins. I remember I went to a small liberal arts college. It was a shithole in 1999. All right, and I thought about, because I kind of enjoyed the concept of teaching, and I thought I would be a good history teacher. I thought about pursuing becoming a secondary school teacher, becoming a high school teacher. I was in class for about 3 months before I just dropped the damn thing because I was surrounded by the most left wing students I could possibly I could imagine. All right, this is a liberal arts college in New England. All right, so it's already politically left, the vast majority. Okay, like 90%. But within the classroom for basically for becoming an education major, education classes, um, the people were outright basically communists. Okay, um, wearing political slogans, okay, on their clothing, wearing political buttons, okay, like nasty ones too, leftist stuff, to class every day. And basically every single class, there was at least one student who would raise their hand and offer some kind of left-wing paean, all right, as to the public education system, right? And and the teacher would lap it up. Okay, it was like brown nosing to the teacher, like who could outdo each other on being the most Cloward Piven / Saul Alinsky, you know what I mean, slash Frankfurt School influenced kid in the class. And I, wa-
/ Confucius Institute.
I walked out. I'm like, I'm not going to be a teacher because these people around me who also want to be teachers are fucking disgusting people. All right, that's a sign. That's a sign that you're just not going to be doing this. So
I had a similar experience. I had a similar experience when I went back to college. Excuse me. My GI Bill after I got out of the Army. I needed to fill an elective in my philosophy degree, and all the options that remained that I hadn't already done were different flavors of grievance studies, women's studies, African studies, what have you.
Right.
Except for introduction to, it was something like introduction to pedagogy, or it was basically one of the base level teaching classes that you take if you were starting a teaching degree, which I was not, but it filled the elective. So just like you were talking about, it's everybody in the classroom. It's like they were. We talk about how the educational institutions are brainwashing people. So I'm in this classroom. Like I said, it's an introductory level class. And at this point in my life, I was like, 34, 35 years old, just come off a military career with combat experience, already had a college degree, already had, exposure to the education system.
Yeah, you're entering the classroom.
Outside the military.
Yeah,
and I'm in here with a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who just graduated high school. And it was like, they were just fresh off the stamp. Say again?
I'd say retarded.
Correct. Yes, retarded. Right. But that was, that was what, 2000, that's 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. I was 33, 34, 35, somewhere in there.
Well, that's one way that the public education system has gotten worse. Okay, Larry and I have been the last. I only went to public school for like 4 years total. Okay, the rest of the time I was in private Catholic schools. All right, but
see, I went to nothing but public schools until college.
Right. Yeah, I know. You're a product of the system. Okay, you were you.
Yes. I experienced the system and it enraged me.
But regardless, I had friends who were in public school. Now, it used to be that if you sent your kids to college, you ran you were sending your kids to basically essentially a leftist seminary, and there's a strong likelihood that they might come out essentially communist, leftist, okay, anti-American, anti-civilization acolytes, okay. And that ever since when I went to college in 1999, that was the case. That was very much the reality. Okay,
yep.
But it wasn't
so much worse now.
It wasn't all, but that was college. Okay, it wasn't always that. The high school was more or less apolitical. Okay, it might have had a slight election season. You could probably tell from the teachers that there was a Democrat bent. You know what I mean? But high school wasn't overtly political. And then during the Obama administration, at least from what I can recollect, from the Obama administration, that's when the racial grievance stuff kicked off massively. Okay, within the actual education system, and then it was high school itself became essentially a liberal seminary. All right. And then, with the expansion of LGBT propaganda to include tranification and chemical and surgical mutilation of children, at that point, then the middle schools themselves and elementary schools became leftist seminaries. Okay, so the corruption of the heretical corruption of the public school system at this point is complete. All right. and they are insulated from any Republican administration. All right, through layers of bureaucratic um, of defense, and through your federal judges, who will obviously would overturn any kind of executive action against the public education system. Right. So they're basically insular. They're completely shielded from accountability, and they're running essentially a nationwide, heavily funded organization towards directing the youth towards the revolution. Okay, towards the communist revolution.
Well, and Mario,
The entire public school system now.
You mentioned going through the school system in the 90s and starting college in 99. I started a little bit later in 01, I think was the first time I went to college for a couple semesters.
Yeah, I should have done construction for a couple of years like you did. It would have been better. It would have been better for me.
Well, and be that as it may, what was I? Oh, so that is actually when it happened, right? As we were leaving, public and private schools, as we were leaving the general education, the K through 12 education world, the rest of the millennials were doing so as well. So around the time you and I would have first had the chance to go to college was when our age peers our contemporaries were beginning college, where, as you mentioned, there was already, Rush Limbaugh was already talking about even the high schools being liberal indoctrination camps, but back then it was very subtle. And then once our contemporaries went through college, went through the communist seminary, and then became teachers, that's when it happened. So that's why it started to really shift around 05, 06, 07, right? And is because the kids that we went to school with, right, the ones that went through college to become teachers, they were just becoming teachers. They were just finishing their 3-4 year degrees and entering the workforce as teachers. The rise of the teachers union since then has been astronomical. And you are not paying attention if you do not correctly understand that the teachers unions in America are explicitly an enemy of the United States of America.
Right. And then you couple that with the ideological threat. Okay, and then there's the physical danger of attending public school has also dramatically increased. All right.
Yes.
As the country becomes browner through immigration, legal and illegal. All right. Then and white people continually are pulling their children out of public schools and putting them in private school or homeschooling them. Okay. The meteoric increase in homeschooling, okay, is largely a symptom of white Americans pulling their kids out of public school, because it's not just the ideological contagion at this point. It's literally dangerous to send your kids to diversity daycare. Okay.
Yeah, and we're not even talking about like school shooting nonsense, right?
No,
I mean, that's
talking about general
But-
harassment and an atmosphere of threat and fear and intimidation at the school. Okay.
I mean, I was in more than one fist fight while I was in high school and in primary school, right? I was in more than one fist fight. Why? Because I'm a dude, right? Fist fights is a thing that dudes do, right? And it happened. It wasn't every day by any stretch, right? I don't even think I was in one fist fight every year that I was in school. Probably. No, you know what? After I moved to, I was never in a fist fight again after I moved to Georgia, because I showed up one day and I was, when I got to Georgia, I was a junior. I was already 6'6". I didn't get in a lot of fist fights walking around a high school being a fucking, just gargantuan. But, fist fights happen. Never while I was in school, in a public school, did I see the just, feral melees that we're seeing on social media every day. Never saw a horde of feral sociopaths attack and brutally beat one of the teachers or principals. Hell no.
Yep.
Hell no.
Mhm.
Now, for a little context, the entire time I was in school, except for the few years that we were in New England, the wooden paddle was still on the table.
Yep.
I have in fact myself been beaten in the principal's office with a wooden paddle a couple times.
Nice.
Can't do that shit today. The kids are into it.
Did the principal lose heart when he hit you as hard as he could, and you did not cry, and you just stared at him? You just stared at him with them ice blue steely eyes. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, there was a bit of that this one time. Like, is that all you got, son? Is that all you got?
Yo, teach. Put a little heat on that. Can't feel it. Can barely feel it.
I was not yet demented enough back then to try and twist it into a sexual joke and just end the entire conversation with awkwardness. Wasn't yet savvy enough for that.
Hey, principal, I like where we're going with this, but can we look? Special request. Can we add some handcuffs here? Can we add some? Yeah, right. So,
do you have a ball gag in your desk? If not, I brought one.
So it is what happened. So what has happened with the public school system is exactly what probably one of the greatest political minds of our generation or any what he accurately predicted back in 1986. Okay, when Senator Joseph Robinette Biden warned that our schools would become a racial jungle. Okay, if forced busing were allowed to continue, right? And also one of the greatest political minds of our age or any, Hillary Rodham Clinton. Okay, warned of super predators roaming the hallways, right, of public schools. You know, gotta be honest, 90s Democrats were kind of based. Okay, what happened? Like,
maybe the thing to do, maybe what we need to do is take those sound bites and mix them together into a rap song and just publish it over a montage of feral melees.
Yeah, that would be that'd be worth watching. Yeah. So, right, basically, if you're a white family and you send your white children to public school, you are essentially giving them a taste of what it is like in the federal penitentiary system, right? Where basically you're surrounded by diversity, all right, extreme diversity, and violence is basically something you're going to see every single day at school, and your children will be targeted for intimidation simply for the fact that they are white. The curriculum itself will be teaching your children to feel bad about themselves, all right, to feel bad for whatever purported historical crimes of their ancestors, right, without any context of, say, colonialism bringing civilization to the world, okay, and dramatically improving the lives of basically everyone on the planet, okay. And at the same time, they're going to be telling the brown children who are increasingly outnumbering you in the classroom that they should feel aggrieved by what your ancestors have done. And you can just imagine sitting there in class as one of only a handful of white kids, while the rest of the classroom now, despite whatever background they come from, be it black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever, right, are now are now unified,
Yep.
okay, against you, because the school is literally teaching everyone who's not white to view everyone who's white as basically the physical manifestation of systems of oppression. All right, that's what that is what you are sending your child to if you send them to a public school.
And
right?
the result will be a bifurcated. The youngest generation will be bifurcated. The youngest generation of white children will be bifurcated into oikophobic xenophiles, right?
Right.
Awfuls,
Mhm.
right? And legit white supremacists, like actual white supremacists.
Yes. if you, yeah, exactly.
Not, and when I say white supremacist in this context, I don't mean sharp dressed young men who show up to work on time and do a good job and raise a family because apparently those are all white supremacy. No. I mean a young man who is actually down for the cause, blood and soil, exterminate the brown skins. Right. That is what we're talking about there.
Yeah. You're talking about
you will create two extremes, and there will no longer be just a strong constitutionalist conservative white man in the middle.
You're talking about young white men graduating high school with basically no educational prospects, okay? Because they're
the only demographic that doesn't have any government grants available to their demographic.
Right. Or not only that, but is not allowed to have ethnic support networks within their own community to provide each other financing. Okay. Not allowed to have that either. So you're going to graduate high school with few economic prospects. Okay. You've been subjected to hatred and ridicule your entire time within the public school system. And what do you think happens when you graduate? Well, you're going to start getting like runes tattooed on your face. You're going to start smoking meth, and then basically you're lost. You're lost to the dark side. Okay. You tell a kid he's a Nazi long enough, eventually he becomes a Nazi. Okay. Funny how that works. So.
Yeah. Well, and especially if through the process you're constantly denying him access to the services and benefits of his own community.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Joseph Biden described it perfectly. If you send your children to public school today, all right, and anywhere in this country that is adjacent to a major city, okay, you are essentially condemning your child to basically fight or flight within a racial jungle. All right. Joe Biden was right. All right. Just understand that. Now you think it's not just a problem with the demographics. All right. Even in small town America, there's a crisis within the public school system. Okay. Case in point, my children are homeschooled, and they're in like small town USA, right? Where the demographics are still like 90+% white, right? So what is it about the public school system that is too dangerous or unproductive for them? It's the drugs. Okay. So in small town Michigan, my kids were pulled out of the public school. My ex-wife was actually a substitute teacher for that school, and she was there enough where she was thinking about becoming a full-fledged teacher, right? But she decided to resign and quit because she was fucking heartbroken every single day. Because these schools where it's like 90% white kids, right? This elementary school, half the kids would show up and coming from stable families, and they're ready to learn, and they're ready to be be social, ready to be just kids at school, learning and having a good time, right? Learning social skills with each other. Okay. Learning respect for authority, how to talk to adults, learning etiquette, right? And then the other half of the kids come from families where the parents are on drugs. All right. They're not given nutrient dense food. They don't have proper sleep schedules. They're single digit age group children. Okay, we're talking 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds that have already been exposed to hardcore pornography. All right, like kids who come to school, they have emotional outbursts. Okay, because they're basically traumatized by the situation they're living in. Their clothes smell like cat pee. You know what I mean? They're covered in dog hair, like shit like that. And it was fucking heartbreaking. My ex-wife had to just walk away from it. And that's in small town America with 90%, that's 90% white. Okay. And you've got 50% of the youngest cohort who are effectively lost already. That is not, that is, and no politician is going to fix that. No politician is. You cannot vote that to be better. It will never be better, other than some spiritual awakening. Okay, within America at large, within sections of the country at large. That's the only way that's ever
Okay.
going to be fixed.
I'm glad you mentioned that, and I want to talk about that on a whole show. But let me touch on something real quick. Yesterday I talked about I summarized and analyzed the State of the Union, and I brought up the several counter State of the Union, counter protest events that went on, which were all silly and ridiculous. But I did notice something, and I didn't bring it up yesterday because I wanted to wait and talk and have a conversation with you about it. Maybe this will be Monday morning show, because tomorrow I've already got the Firearms Friday show in the bag for tomorrow. So there's this thing going on with Democrats rushing to microphones to say we're the real Christians. Because. And there's everything from queering the Bible. Oh, how gay was Jesus? He was a Jewish guy in his 30s that didn't have a wife and was always surrounded by men. Shut the fuck up. But there are all these Democrats. There's the one running in Texas right now that was at the center of the whole fair coverage scandal with what's his face the other anyway. But there are all these Democrats who rush to the microphone to say we're the real Christians in this Christian nation, and what real Christians believe is that Jesus was all on board. He was totally in for gay marriage, and you feed the hungry, and you welcome the stranger, and abortion.
Yep.
And they're absolute heresies. Mm-hmm. Okay, feeding the hungry, that's this thing, right?
Well, portraying Jesus as a socialist, okay, or a communist, right? That's been a subversive method. They've been pushing that since the 1960s. Okay,
it has, but recently there's been a massive uptick in Democrats who are running for office, running that line, chasing that line, because it's because there is a massive resurgence of people going back to church, a return to faith going on in this country right now. It's a little under the radar. It's a little under the radar right now because the mainstream news outlets are terrified to admit it, but the politicians are chasing. If a Democrat says something, it's because it was polled. That's true. That's true of Republicans as well, but to a lesser extent, Republicans tend to have principles that they stick to. Democrats tend to have sticks that they principle to. They seek out whatever the current public opinion is and try to pervert it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's. Yeah, it's similar to
Cade nails that piece as well. They're desperately trying to look moderate. Yes.
Yeah, I know. And you got it's the problem is for not gonna. All right, let me make this as concise as possible because I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. But
right,
it's an attempt to essentially create a formation, a dichotomy. All right, amongst a dialectic amongst Christian, okay, but astroturfed completely, of course, between and splitting Christians into two groups, one being Christian Zionists and the other being Christian socialists. Okay, that is the dialectic goal there. Okay, but yeah.
And here's part of the problem with the way that the dialectic operates.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on, let me jot this down real quick.
Lowry had an idea. He's committing it to paper, so he doesn't forget.
That's not helping.
You don't like me narrating your action? Yeah.
So part of what they're doing One, it's a naked, desperate attempt to claw back some of the support that they're losing because of the resurgence of faith. But like I said, you're hearing the rhetoric. Jesus was pro-trans. Jesus was pro-illegal immigrant, not just pro-foreigner, pro-illegal immigrant. Jesus was
No, it wasn't.
poverty. Jesus was pro-abortion. Jesus was pro-gay marriage. Okay, Jesus was not pro-poverty. Jesus was against poverty. That's why he helped the poor. Right. That's an important, a really important distinction. Democrats are pro-poverty because poor, desperate people desperately want socialism because they're poor and desperate and envious. Right.
Well,
they're pro-poor. They're pro-poverty. They're not pro the poor. But stick with me here. You're getting all these heretical shit sacks that are making arguments that Jesus was all these things because they know that they're losing on the most radical issues, right? Border security has overwhelming support. Voter ID has overwhelming support, right? The world, not just America, the world is done with the tranny shit. We're done with it. And so what the Democrats are going to do, because they think they need to be more moderate, they're going to come out, they're going to proselytize with their heretical nonsense. Instead of moderating, instead of stepping back from these psychotic tranny issues and all this garbage that they've been spewing for years, instead of stepping back from that, instead what they're going to do is they're going to tell you that Jesus was for it. So instead of becoming less radical by getting away from the radicalism, they're going to work to shift the Overton window further to the left so that the things that are radical today become moderate tomorrow and eventually conservative. Because a conservative in modern American politics conserves nothing so much as the last thing a fucking Democrat shoved down your throat.
That's correct. That's why, it's personally, yeah. Am I a conservative? Yeah, in my practices, in my actions, in the way I live, yes, I am. Politically, am I conservative? Absolutely not, because there's nothing worth conserving in this status quo. Okay. The thing about making Jesus, you see, there is actually there's a passage in the gospel, right, where sure, yeah, the disciples would minister to the poor, okay, but at the same time there was this they went to Jesus and the disciples went to this house. Okay, I don't remember the exact details. Aaron would. Okay, but they're in there, and the woman of the house decides to honor Jesus, right, by giving him basically a premium pedicure. Okay, circa 30 A.D. Right, and she's breaking out all the expensive oils, like the expensive cosmetics, and the disciples are watching this, and they're like, "Oh, hey, Jesus, why are you using all those luxury goods there? You know what I mean? Like, we could have sold those and we could have fed this many poor people." And Jesus tells them, he's like, "Look, you need to understand, you're always going to have poor people. Okay, I promise you, the poor will always be there. Like the inadequate, they're always going to be there. Okay, it is just the nature of a fallen world. But
the less adequate,
you'll always have the poor, but you won't have me forever. You know what I mean? At least in my physical form here. So that's an important distinction when it comes to talking about Jesus the socialist, the redistributor, the distributist. You know what I mean? It's not quite what the liberals would like Jesus to be. And they really wouldn't like Jesus tying millstones around trannies' necks and throwing them into the sea. Okay, that might be a game ender there for the leftist alliance.
Man, when we were in Hawaii, the tranny issue wasn't a big issue yet. You remember that giant mahu that worked at the Denny's?
Trans derailment. Warning. The show is now over. All right.
We remember going into that Denny's right down the street from Schofield. There's a Denny's, and there was this giant mahu. not important. Just You said something that triggered the memory. I just thought it was funny. Anyway, I need to wrap it up there because I have to get on the road.
Chris is struggling right now, and there are trannies living in his head rent free right now. Okay,
Just the one.
Only your patronage and support to this channel can help cure this man of his affliction. Okay, open your hearts, open your wallets. I need Aaron on here to prosperity gospel it up. Okay.
Sergeant Major remembers the giant Mahu.
you don't forget that. That's those are probably images seared into as Catherine Blasey Ford might say, indelible in the hippocampus. Okay.
I mean, this dude was my size, waiting tables in a skirt and heels. All right,
kids, be polite, but don't make eye contact. Okay. Follow Dad's lead.
All right, guys, y'all be safe out there.
We love you. Have Michael shouting out, "You're a man!" Like Michael.
Boy. Be safe, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Ciao.
I'll bite his leg off. Hey, Aaron, thanks for the super chat, brother. Sow a seed today, guys. Sow a seed today.